Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, mindset mentor and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Hey, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. Mark Dodich has been a professional astrologer and intuitive counselor since 1980. He provides a wide variety of astrological consultations and intuitive tarot readings internationally from his home in Portland, Oregon. Mark is regularly seen and heard in the media. In addition to natal astrology, Mark specializes in relocation astrology, which maps your power places on planet Earth. He has also developed a 7-ray esoteric astrology consultation to help you understand your soul's purpose. Mark leads metaphysical trips to sacred places and is excited to lead an African safari in September 2016. Today, Mark and I are talking about the planetary influences for 2016 and how that's going to affect all areas of your life. But before I talk with Mark, meeting Mr. Right can be tough, especially when you keep kissing frogs. With tons of ways to meet someone, it can be exhausting doing the whole dating thing. What if it was easier than that? What if your happily ever after was closer than you think? Did you know there are specific steps you can take to stop attracting Mr. Wrong and pave the way for Mr. Right? Join me for my upcoming class, and I'll share the 5 steps to a powerful love attraction formula, giving you the keys to find true love in 2016. Grab your spot now at theawakenedgoddess.com/webinar-registration, or just go to theawakenedgoddess.com and you can sign up there. Now let's talk to Mark. Well, welcome, Mark, to the Awakened Goddess Show. First off, let me just say Happy New Year!
Yay, a new year. I am so ready for 2015 to be done, so I'm up for it.
I know. I thought things were supposed to be getting easier, but I don't know. 2015 for me was pretty rocky and rough, so...
I've been telling people with transformation on the planet that our new level of, shall we call it a bottom level of intensity, has rise to a new floor, rather than the people that say, oh, I wish it would go back to, the old days or something. Well, no, we just have to get ready for, or live at a new level of intensity if you believe that the planet is speeding up, or evolution is speeding up.
Yeah, so, I couldn't think of a better guest to have to start off this, new year than you, because, you talk, your specialty is astrology and what's going to happen. And so I just want to dive in and let you just tell us what to expect in 2016. What are the planets doing and what's going to happen?
Sure. Well, so the big picture is the planet Jupiter is in Virgo for a year between August of 2015 and September of 2016. And Jupiter says, do it big, take a risk on yourself, transform your belief system, go live your dreams. And Virgo says you have to be practical and make it down to earth and be willing to roll up your sleeves and work at it. So those people who are saying, I just want to do it and have it, be done and quick and easy, and I want it yesterday kind of mentality, that's not really going to work this year, okay?
Did it work any year?
I don't know if it works any years, but some years there's, we'll call it more instant gratification, where this is the ability to bring our higher philosophy, our higher dreams down into the real world, rather than some utopian world that's off in some future land. So the what we'll lovingly call the woo-woo people aren't going to like this, because it says, hey, you can have what you want. You just have to roll up your sleeves and get organized and get to it.
Yeah.
And then the other part of the big theme is the planet Saturn, all year in 2015, was trying to move into Sagittarius, but it was going backwards into Scorpio, dredging up everybody's old emotions and old wounds and old healing needs. Not to punish them. Obviously, if we're holding old stuff way down deep, that needs to come up to be healed, to be released. But as of late September, and now lasting through 2017, Saturn's in Sagittarius. And Saturn's, I sacrifice in the short term for the long term good. And Sagittarius is gung-ho, let's get moving real fast. So a lot of people are experiencing what I would call a little bit of a hurry up and wait kind of consciousness. Or sometimes I joke it's like the first time you learn to drive a clutch. It's a little jerky. But the good piece is Sagittarius is like Jupiter that we just talked about. It rules your belief system. What are you going to let yourself have? It rules expansion. It's kind of a leap of faith thing. I kind of joke like there's that one old Indiana Jones movie where to save his father, to go get the Holy Grail, he has to step out into this chasm and have faith. And so the people who are looking for a guarantee, if I do this, I want to make sure there's a guaranteed result for me. That doesn't really work under this. This says you connect up to your spirit of divine, that unlimited source of abundance, or whatever we want to call that energetic source. And it's almost like you have to take charge and say, hey, I'm in charge of my life. It's not outer world circumstances, but I get to pick and choose what I want, and then the universe is here to do my bidding, but I'm the one who has to take the leap of faith, and I'm the one who has to transform my belief system to allow something larger to come in. And then Saturn says, be patient, be practical, and believe me, no one likes to hear an astrologer use the P word, patience. But this is, I'm using words like cautious expansion, conservative optimism, conservative risk-taking. So I'm not telling anybody to quit their day job and go off to Timbuktu, but I am saying that, say you want to start your healing or your intuitive business or whatever a person's dream is, I would say this is a great year to get to work on that dream. You just have to be practical in how you do it, not pie-in-the-sky woo-woo. So for people who have been sitting on some dream or some vision, or even if they don't know what it is, but they feel that there's a Buddhist down in the Bay Area that calls it divine discontent. That which you are seeking is causing you to seek, and you feel like there's something out there for me, but I can't quite get a handle on it. Well, to those people who don't know what that vision is, I say you need to start working on it whether you know what it is or not. When I first really got into metaphysics in a more serious way, I did it from the negative way, meaning that I was in the corporate world wearing my suit, going out drinking with the customers and party kind of, I was a lot younger then. And I realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I just had to go out and experiment with trying some different things. And I ended up in a crystal healing class. And I mean, this was before crystals were popular and expensive. And it changed my life. But I wasn't looking for it. I was just saying, I am tired of the lifestyle I've been living. I need to get off my backside and get out of the house and do something out of what was at that point my routine in life. And so, see, this works even if you don't know what your vision is, but it requires you to step out of your comfort zone. And if you do, there's great opportunity this year to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, so I like that you're talking about kind of really tuning into your own inner wisdom, that intuitive part of ourselves, and letting that guide you, and stepping in and following those little subtle signs that we get, maybe those callings of what draws us in or what attracts our attention, and simply just test those things out and see where it goes.
Exactly. I agree 100%. And the piece I would add is it brings up people's trust issues. And it requires you to trust yourself, to trust your connection to divine, to trust your intuition. And I'm not talking about snap your fingers and overnight you trust, but you have to practice it. Intuition works. You have to practice it.
You do. And I remember my intuition first kind of showing itself to me when I was in high school, when I was attracted to some guy, and I knew deep down in my gut that it wasn't the right person, right? But then there was that part of myself, the inner debate of, I didn't want to believe it, but I knew it, and it was just like this process. And so, yeah, it's like over time that even though that has strengthened, it's like still trusting that despite, it telling me something I don't want to hear. That seems to be the tough part.
Well, and that's development of wisdom, because when we're young, we know better and we go do it anyway. And when we get older, we go, been there, done that, not going to put myself through that one again. And part of that is just experience and development of wisdom, because we've all been through it. The issue is who learns from it and who keeps doing the same mistake over and over again. And that has nothing to do with your age, because believe me, I've seen people who keep doing the same relationship, only it's a different name and a different face, but it's the same old relationship over and over again. And then they'll come into an astrologer or a psychic or whoever, and they'll say, when's the next relationship going to come in? Well, wouldn't it be better to heal whatever that core issue is so that you can attract a good relationship, not just another warm body in your life?
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm curious, for 2016, are there things that stand out in terms of relationships? Or another one I know that's really popular with people is prosperity. How can I get more money in my life?
I would start off with the first half of this year in more of a, we'll call it prosperity, taking care of home base, taking care of the business piece first. But in September, Jupiter, which we called that risk taker, expansive, well, since it's the new year, we'll call him the Santa Claus of the zodiac, since it's timely. In other words, the guy with blessings and opportunity and abundance. He moves into the sign of relationships when we get to September, and we'll be there for a full year. So I would say on just a general big picture level that September and the year that follows that is going to be excellent for people working on their relationship issues. But the other piece I'll add in is, you remember back in September we had that big blood moon eclipse that was in the papers and everybody went outside to see it? Well, that eclipse was in the signs Aries and Libra. And this coming March 23rd, we're going to have another lunar eclipse in the signs Libra and Aries. So in other words, it's bookend opposites. If you look at your life last September 2015 and then March 2016, you're going to get to see two sides of the same coin. And Aries says, independence, individuality, I need to live who I am. And Libra says, I want my warm and fuzzies and curl up by the fire with my partner. So we could say people really for the last year or so have been rebalancing their individuality needs with their relationship needs. And one way I've seen this with a lot of people is they come in and they say, oh, Mark, I want a relationship. But everything they're doing says they don't want a relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their brain wants it, but their actions aren't in harmony with that.
Yeah. So can you give like a really concrete example of what that looks like?
Well, it's, because sometimes I have some clients I've had for, I had to admit, 30 years at this point. Who can even imagine such a long time? And you'll see them come in year after year with the same story. And you want to honor that. You don't want to be in judgment or that. But there's that part that says, okay, isn't it time to move out of this loop? And so, really, if people would just listen to themselves, what is the story they keep telling over and over again? They'll have a hint of how to get out of that. And then they can manifest. And what I'm talking about that's been going on is people have been rebalancing their relationship needs with their individuality needs. And when you have eclipses like we did last September and this coming March 23rd, they pull you back and forth. So the classic joke would be one day you want a relationship and the next day you're happy alone and it's much easier without a relationship. And then the next day you want a relationship. And you'll see that all the time in people. And that's not bad. It's that they're looking at their value system from opposite polarities of, I want my cake and eat it too. I want my relationship, but I need my, what I would call my man cave time, my hermit time, or whatever people call that, me time versus us time. And see, that's really what's been going on, is we're rebalancing what that need is. And really what it's saying is, what do we actually value?
Yeah, values. I mean, you're right. It's like any given moment of any given day. It's like that can change.
Absolutely. But I would guess that there is a theme underlying that change, that you're more weighted on one side than the other.
Yeah, cool. So, okay, I understand that you go on these amazing trips, like around the world, in like Egypt and Greece, and I know you have this really cool trip coming up in September. You're going on an African safari, and one of the things that I know we've talked about in the past is that what comes up is like this lack consciousness. People really want to go on these trips, or life in general. We're wanting to do new things, but we tend to keep ourselves small because it's like we always come up with that reason of there's not enough money. So Can you talk about that?
Sure. And, sometimes people come up with those reasons because they don't really want to do the thing, but it sounds cool. But other times they genuinely want to do it. And they will put blocks in their way, whether that's I don't deserve it or fear of money or what have you. But I'll give you an example, because really the people who come with me are spiritually oriented, metaphysical, because we do healing ceremonies and meditation and tuning into the African animal totem energies that we'll be doing in September in Africa. But I'll give you an example. I had a lady who came to Egypt with us several years ago, and she was on a fixed income. I mean, she was seriously didn't have money. I mean, more than people who say they don't have money. She was really in that category. And she saved for a long time because it was a bucket list dream of hers to go to. And, we'd rented private time in the Great Pyramid and all that. And so the first day we get there, I mean, this is after like a 17-hour flight from the West Coast to Cairo. That first evening, we rented private time in the Great Pyramid, went in, did our ceremonies and chanting up in the king's chamber and, all of that sort of stuff. And then everybody got their private time to, go do what they needed to do. And when we came out, it was like sunset over the Giza Plateau, and you're waiting for the other people to come out. They come at their own pace. And you're sitting on these giant big block rocks, kind of about a third of the way up the pyramid, watching sunset, and it gets very quiet at that time. And she says, she says, Mark, I had great struggles in coming up with the money to come here. I'm on Social Security, etc. But today was worth it. Today paid for the whole thing. And that was just the first day of the trip. And so when I looked at that, because I had to think, because I get it, traveling the world is not inexpensive, and it's complicated, and there's stuff, But I have to say, here's somebody who faced her fears on an income that really couldn't afford to go to this place. And once she got there, she realized the value of what it was there. But when you're sitting here saying, oh my gosh, it's going to be, almost $7,000 to go to Africa, that's a lot of money. It is. But I'm paying $7,000 for a dental implant, and I will tell you, I would much rather go to Africa than have a dental implant.
That's right.
Yeah. And so what you have to do is you have to project yourself. I don't know if you've seen the work of Greg Braden and the Heart Math Institute, but they've done some studies that says that to get somebody to change, you don't change their way of thinking. You have to change their heart, because it's more effective. It just works better. And so if a person could project ahead, whether it's my Africa trip or whether it's something else, a goal or a dream or whatever that they're holding, and they could feel what that experience was like that lady sitting on the blocks after coming out of the Great Pyramid, then they would say, gee, that experience is worth X amount of dollars, instead of me wasting it on, not to knock Starbucks, but, an expensive cup of coffee every day or something.
Right.
And so if people could get into the feeling of what it is that they're creating, they wouldn't let things get in the way of having that feeling. And that's true of anything in life. Think of somebody who's got a job that they just hate. I mean, I see this all the time with people. They come in and they're afraid to leave their job because of the economy or because of whatever reason it will be, but they're miserable. Well, then they come home and on Saturday and Sunday they're a couch potato because they're so burnt out from doing something they hate that they get no energy to do anything. Well, wouldn't it be better to feel what it would feel like to have that new job and to be around loving people that they work with and feel like it's meaningful and to be making the money that they need to make to sustain their life? Well, gee, why wouldn't you change if you could have that feeling? And so my suggestion with clients is it's not just about me charting all the cycles and everything, but what do you want that to feel like down the road? And when you have that feeling inside, Metaphysics 101 is what I call it. You hold it up in your mind's eye, and then you bring it down into the physical world in partnership with spirit rather than trying to do it all yourself. Then, of course you want that. And of course you're willing to take a risk on yourself to bring that feeling into your life.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East by Baird Spalding?
No.
There are a series of books of a bunch of scientists that went over to the Near East and met these masters who could do pretty incredible, amazing things, which completely boggled a scientific mind. That teleportation and manifestation and out of thin air and things like that sound like pretty much woo-woo. But they explain it so well, the principles of the universe. And if people just worked in accordance with the rules of the universe, they would be so much happier.
Yeah, so true. And I think going back to what you said earlier about, like, for example, with relationships, we have these patterns that we're kind of in a cycle with. And it's like, we have the power as creators, co-creators with the universe to step out of those routines and shift, those pieces within ourselves. It takes work, but...
Well, and what I'll say is between the middle of April and the end of June, the planet Mars, which is kind of a male warrior energy, is going to give the illusion of going retrograde or backwards in the signs Sagittarius and Scorpio. And Scorpio is our deep level emotions, what I call clean the bottom of the drain at the bottom of the swamp. And Sagittarius is we rise up like the phoenix out of the ashes. So what's going to be going on, specifically middle of April through the end of June, is people are going to be going through their value system and saying, what do I no longer value? And we're not just talking about their garage sale. We're talking about attitudes, beliefs, behaviors. And then we have another little run through Scorpio, which says, well, we're healing on emotional levels. And then when we come out after June and it starts moving forward again, it's like saying, you watch, people's values would change. If they would write down their New Year's, what do I value for this year? When we get to July and they go back and look at that list, I'll bet there's a lot of things on that list that don't hold energy for them anymore. Because we're going through making sure that our philosophy, which is Sag, our emotions, which is Scorpio, and our actions, which is Mars, are all in alignment. Because, I know you see it yourself. You see a lot of people who say they're doing one thing, and then they want one thing, but their actions go in a different direction. And so there's a realignment coming this spring. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I love that. The alignment was really up for me in 2015. So I'm glad to hear that it sounds like, things are going to come together and it's going to be even just that much more easy to know when you're in alignment or when you're not.
And, my experience with the consultations I do is that the people who have been doing their work and working on their issues and transforming themselves, when they go through these kind of shifts, they go through much easier. And that the ones who have been ignoring it or hiding under the covers tend to get slammed.
Yeah.
you know. And not that I wish anybody gets slammed, of course, but if you don't do your work, it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah, definitely. You know, one of the things that I know you do that I think is super, super cool is you do astrocartography, which... Yeah, which for people that don't know, you're a specialist in relocation astrology and where you have like power or energy within different locations in the world. And so, let's talk about that, because for me, I've been bouncing back between Oregon and New York, and I've wanted to go back to New York, and I've also contemplated possibly moving to Europe or London. So let's talk about that. I want to, for people that are wondering, maybe they're not feeling really connected with where they're located.
Sure.
And maybe not be aware that has an effect on them.
And this service is not just about where you live or where you vacation, but you can even use these lines if you're going to market yourself in a different part of the country, or you're going to write your book. Where would be the best place to go out on the lecture circuit?
Cool.
I have a really good publishing line on the East Coast of the USA, and I've lived there and I've experienced it, but I just don't want to live on the East Coast. But I still do advertising and writing articles and publications back there, and do very well because I'm using that line even though I'm not living under it. Okay, so anyways, I just want to take people beyond the idea of it's where you live and where you move, but basically it does require fairly accurate birth time is the one important thing about this service. And we go in and we cast a chart of your known action zones. Now, a lot of people say, Mark, just tell me that one place where I'm going to have love, money, enlightenment, good health. I want everything in one place. I wish the world worked that way, okay? But there are different zones for career, others that are better for relationship, and a person has to really look at what is it you want at this next phase in life. So if it's okay to use you as an example, I'll just give you a snippet. So from a West Coast perspective, what I call the I-5, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, you have what we'd call moderate and weak lines. You don't have gigantic strong lines here, but the lines that are here are career and public image lines. And they're out off of the coast. And the one that's actually closest to Portland is Mercury, and Mercury rules short, quick communications like a radio show or a salesperson or a teacher. And the one that's just beyond that is Jupiter, which rules higher philosophy. So here you are presenting in public a radio show that's short, quick, and on higher philosophical topics. So there it's working very, very well for you, okay? So let's say you decided you want to go back to the East Coast. And now the way it works is these lines have a range. 300 miles on either side of a line is drawn on what's called an astrocartography or ACG map is strong, and 300 to 600 miles or 700 miles is moderate down to weak. So it's not like I say, oh, you have to go to New York City, but I could say, gee, if you went to that, New York-Boston range, and then you could choose, would I rather be up in cold Boston or down in New York or maybe down in D.C., let's say. Well, the line that you have going right through New York City and right off the eastern seaboard is a career line, and it's the moon. Well, moon rules the ability to sense what the public needs before the public knows it needs it. It knows it's women or feminine or family issues would be, emotions. So so on the West Coast you have more intellectual lines, and on the East Coast you have more emotional lines. And it's not as clear cut for everybody. But then the other line you have that is in New York and goes out to like Long Island or up towards Toronto is a asteroid called Ceres. Or actually, when they kicked Pluto out of the club, they made Ceres a dwarf planet. It's a really big asteroid. And it's a relationship line. And Ceres was the goddess of the harvest. She was the goddess who brought the harvest to market. She was also a nurse, nurturer, healer, so a business healer goddess line for that New York or New England type area. And then you get a really nice relationship line. Venus is the planet of love and marriage, and it's a relationship line too, so it's like a double whammy effect. Goes right through Rhode Island, Burlington, Vermont, so the whole of New England, New York City would be within range of it, where Washington, D.C. might be in a moderate zone. Boston would be really strong, or New York City would be strong, or if you wanted to go up into New England, so it's like a double relationship line.
Nice.
We're out here, you have more career lines on the West Coast, so if you wanted to enhance your relationship side of your life, going up into that mid-Atlantic, into New England, New York kind of a zone would do that. But you also have to remember there are more emotional lines. And so you're switching from, we'll call that the mental lines you have on the West Coast to a more feminine receptive lines on the East Coast. And then you have to decide, am I comfortable with that?
Yes, I am, as a matter of fact. Yeah, and it's interesting because I definitely have been led by my intellect, more of the masculine energy when I've been out here, definitely. And there's something about New York for me that it's very, as crazy and chaotic and busy it is, I feel very connected. And it felt like home when I was there. It was the craziest feeling.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
awesome.
that's the moon. I feel like I'm at home.
Yes.
Okay? But wherever the moon is, you know how the moon goes through phases. A person would feel like their life goes through phases. One day I love New York, and the next day I wish I were out in the country.
No.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned the UK?
Yes. What's looking at out there?
So over on the Ireland side of the UK, and remember, in Europe the distances are not that far, but over in Ireland you've got the sun. The sun is the core life force as a relationship line. So about putting your life force and relationships in. And then over on what we'll call the Amsterdam, Paris side in other words, mainland Europe, which would be in range of London, you have an asteroid called Pallas Athena, who is a strategic warrior planner goddess. So it'd be a great place to write a book or to do strategic planning. You also have Chiron. So Chiron was a centaur, very famous teacher of healing in ancient Greece, but he was also half horse and half human. So a lot of times people feel a little caught between worlds if you're half horse and half human, but they also become a bridge tender, or alternative healing practices are very good. And you might want to go...
That's crazy. I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you for a second, because one of my guides that I have not really connected much with is a centurion. So that's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I better connect with them more.
Maybe, well, especially if you're going to Europe.
Yeah.
But the other one I was going to mention is Italy might be a lot of fun. You've got a Uranus line there. Friends, groups, organizations, exciting. Not the most stable place to live, okay, but certainly fun.
Wow.
And that also goes up to Austria and like Prague, or off the coast of Stockholm.
Wow.
So that would be there. Or just for fun, you've got a healer business goddess and a relationship Venus line going through Tanzania, where we'll be going in September.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, well, as long as we're talking Africa, I should look at your lines in Africa.
Yeah, very cool.
And of course, on that trip, we'll be looking at people's power lines in Africa and the eclipses that are going on in September. There's a lot of reasons for going in September. So, but since you mentioned astrocartography, we're going to look at everybody's why did we come to Africa on an individual level.
Wow. I love that we got to do that, because I never really realized that location had that much impact on one's life.
Totally.
And yeah.
We also cast these maps for like the solstice and the equinox, because I use them to look at like earthquake zones or fire zones or volcano zones or political, where things are politically changing. So if they wanted to see one of these maps, they could go to my winter newsletter. I do like a quarterly newsletter, and I've got the map of the solstice. They just go to astromark.us, my website. You can download the newsletter, and you'll find the maps on the solstice page.
Yeah, your newsletter is full of great information.
Yeah, I do a quarterly newsletter, and then I also do a short, quick, new and full moon email newsletter. So I have lots of free stuff for people if they wanted to avail themselves to it.
And so, is there anything, last tips that you want to share with the listener, or any last bits about 2016 that we should expect?
Well, I would start with January, since it's January. And, Mercury is going to be retrograde January 5th to 25th, which is if things can get screwed up, they will. You don't leave yourself a 15-minute layover in Chicago O'Hare when Mercury's retrograde,
Right.
You pack extra cash if you're going to be flying, etc. You don't run and hide under the covers. But the beauty is it starts off in Aquarius on January 5th, which is a sign of groups, friends, organizations. So one thing to do would be exploring new groups or organizations that you might want to check out or be a part of. And explore and experiment. We're not asking for commitments now. And then it's going to go backwards into Capricorn. And Capricorn says, I need to take care of the core base structure of my life. It's very conservative or disciplined. So all the people that are starting New Year's diets, Capricorn says slow but sure, not an overnight diet, but a disciplined program or an exercise program that's going to be disciplined rather than my terrible joke is I've been goofing off on exercise and I'm just now getting back and got a trainer to help me. Because to help me motivate myself, shall we say.
Yeah.
And part of me wants to try to catch up for everything I haven't done for the past several months. And I know that doesn't really work. Your body hurts when you do it that way. And so I'm having to teach myself with this Mercury retrograde, we need a more disciplined approach to doing it than the trying to catch up for all the goof off I've been doing.
Yeah.
And so that would start their year. But the real key for the year is there is great opportunity to bring our dreams into reality, but we need to do sacrifice in the short term for the long term good. We need to get real with this is not utopia. It has to work in the world as it is today. They can reincarnate in a few lifetimes if they want the world in where they think it should be. And so in other words, it's about getting real and bringing your dreams down to earth. And if they're willing to roll up their sleeves and get organized and really work at it, there's no reason it won't happen for them.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great year coming up for that.
All right. Well, I think that's an amazing way to start off. Very hopeful and optimistic for a year to come. So how can the listeners get in touch with you, Mark?
Well, I would start with the website, www.astromark.us. They can register for the new and full moon newsletter. They can download the winter quarter newsletter that just went up about 10 days ago. Of course, I do a variety of consultations, natal astrology with all the cycles that are up for this year ahead for them personally, so I can see where that Jupiter or that Saturn is actually working in their chart. Is it in a relationship house? Is it a health house? Is it a work house? And of course, the relocation astrology is about 85% of that is good for the rest of your life. So you can do that whether you're thinking of moving or just trying to think about a vacation or where to market your business.
Yeah. Well, like you said, or go if you think you're going to want to write a book or do have a relationship, you can test out those different areas. That's awesome.
Well, and I also do relationship compatibility astrology, whether that's your love life or whether that's a business partnership or some people use it for family, like the problem child or problem parent or something like that. I do business astrology for businesses, and I also have another specialty, which is 7-ray esoteric astrology. So for people who are looking more, why am I on planet Earth and what is my spiritual service? There's a branch of astrology called esoteric astrology that deals with what is my soul doing on this planet anyway. And so they could check all that out on the website.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, you have a special gift that you're going to share?
Yeah, I have Two, let's say. One is a prosperity enhancement guide. It's just tips on how to improve their prosperity and prosperity consciousness. And the other one I have is the, I don't have a fancy name for it. It's the state and city signs of all the states for the USA and many cities. I don't have all the cities, but a lot of them. And so if you're a Virgo, well, the state of California has a lot of Virgo in its chart. You might fit in California, you know. And so you could look to say, is the sign that I am compatible with a different state or a different city? But always good to start the year off with prosperity consciousness, I think.
Oh, definitely. You know, we all want more prosperity, so... And especially so they can join you on your African safari coming up in September.
That or whatever it is they want to create.
That's right. That's
it's whatever's in their heart. It's the opportunity is there.
Yes.
You just have to claim it, and usually you have to do a little self-transformation to open up to something larger, but we need to do that anyway.
Yep. That's why we're here. Here
That's
to
right.
grow and learn.
Super.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining me today. This was like a really cool conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you.
Great. Well, I think it'll be a fun year if you let it be.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm ready for some fun.
Alrighty.
All right. And now for you, my gorgeous goddess. Was there something Mark or I shared that resonated with you? If so, we'd love to hear about it. Head on over to today's show page at theawakenedgoddess.com and leave us a comment. Did you enjoy this episode? If so, subscribe to the show on iTunes and please share it with all of your friends. And if you want even more incredible resources, join the Awakened Goddess community to get Mark's gift and bonus content from the show. And until next time, goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.